Storytime with Mrs. Mosteller. But first, find a comfy spot to cuddle up and read with one of our favorite stories. We are in the love sack, ready to read. The Frog and Toad Treasury by Arnold Lobel. There's actually 3 books all put together into one collection. Today I'm going to read you the story about Frog and Toad called The Garden. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it was hard work." "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground," said Frog, "and soon you will have a garden." "How soon?" asked Toad. "Quite soon," said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. "Now, seeds," said Toad, "start growing." Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now, seeds, start growing." Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now, seeds, start growing!" Frog came running up the path. "What is all this noise?" he asked. "My seeds will not grow," said Toad. "You are shouting too much," said Frog. "Those poor seeds are afraid to grow." "My seeds are afraid to grow?" "Of course," said Frog. "Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow." At night, Toad looked out of his window. "Drat," said Toad, "my seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark." Toad went out to his garden with some candles. "I will read the seeds a story," said Toad. "Then they will not be afraid." Toad read a long story to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "These must be the most frightened seeds in the world." Then Toad felt very tired, and he fell asleep. Toad, wake up," said Frog. "Look at your garden." Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. "At last," shouted Toad, "my seeds have stopped being afraid to grow." "And now you will have a nice garden too," said Frog. "Yes," said Toad. "You were right, Frog. It was very hard work." How do you think Toad's feeling with his garden? What kind of character is Toad? How would you describe Frog? Which one would you say was the most patient? Hope you enjoyed the story about Toad and Frog. This was a fiction story, of course, but the author took some inspiration from real toads and real frogs. and real nature about how plants grow. Maybe you could turn to a parent and tell them what you know about how plants grow, or share some facts about frogs and toads in real life. Hope you enjoyed the story today. Thanks for joining me. Special thanks to Mr. Mosteller for filming the leap into the love sack, and to Mr. Lobel for writing a fabulous story about Frog and Toad.